What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Miles of Horror, the only channel that's going to make you scream. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Before we do anything, if you guys could be so kind as to hit that like button, please subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all the engagement lately. Hope you guys are having a nice hot beverage this Friday morning. 6:29 a.m. and let's get right into it. Talking this forgotten vampire flick from 1991. If you haven't already guessed it, it is none other than Children of the Night. Now, so many things to say about this movie. Okay, I just watched it. I watched the VHS. Quite frankly, because there's only one other release of this movie. And it's on DVD. Okay, so look no further than that as to how it has been forgotten. Okay, so first of all, aesthetic of the VHS, really cool cover right there. I picked this up from my boy Danny, so thank you. I've got the horror sticker on there, which is super cool. See the artwork on the back. Really cool still there of Zater, the vampire master, with his long clawed fingernails. And so the movie Children of the Night, this came out in 1991, but there's so much mystery around this movie. Now, I feel like this movie doesn't get talked about at all as a not just a good movie, but a fun vampire flick. And I'm gonna say, like, the aesthetic of the vampires in this one are some of my favorite vampires in vampire history. Like the creepiest vampires, quite frankly, ever I've seen. And but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The movie is Children of the Night, and it is quite the banger. Check this out.
They are the sons of evil. They are the daughters of darkness. They were born when hell began to burn. In the classic tradition of Nosferatu and Dracula comes a terrifying story of the undead and the innocent souls they must seduce to survive.
But the only way to help them is to find the source of the vampires.
We are their prey. He is their lord. They are his children. Children of the Night.
So just an awesome vampire aesthetic in this one, like really creepy. They got the long fingernails with the kind of long digit, and they're kind of like wrinkly and creepy. Something about vampires with long fingers, like reaching out, just creeps me the fuck out. So really cool vampire aesthetic in this one. And what's so interesting to me about this movie is, among so many other things. So first of all, this was released on DVD back in 2003. The only other release of this is the VHS. So this thing gets no love physical media wise. Okay, this thing is aching for a new release. Maybe Vinegar Syndrome this year. They are doing a lot of love for the 90s these days. But what's so interesting to me about this movie is there's like little known about at the box office. Like I researched, I want to see if this movie did well, and like you can't find information on it. It's bizarre to me. It's almost like it was like thrown under the rug for reasons I can't comprehend. But it's eluding me. It's a little bizarre to me that I can't find that information. But anyway, basic premise of the movie, right? Before going away to college, two childhood friends, Cindy and Lucy, decide to cleanse themselves in a sense, and they of their dirt of their small town, and they've had enough, and they kind of go to this abandoned crypt church thing, and one of the characters, Lucy, drops her her cross, and it kind of like awakens this ancient vampire Zocker. That awakes and kills, one of the girls, and that's how kind of how the movie starts. And then it's kind of like a small town takeover vampire movie that's banging, guys. I loved it, and I had known about this movie, and I remember seeing trailers for it when I was a kid because the vampires are very, very iconic is not the word, but they're very unique is the right word, and you kind of can't really forget when you see the vampires of this movie. So that's kind of the basic premise. I don't know if you guys caught it over there, but starring Karen, not starring, but Karen Black is in it, who plays the mother in House of a Thousand Corpses. She's also in Annie Lee's Meat Pies. She's a very very fantastic horror actress. So she's cool in it. She plays kind of this like chained up seductress, seductive vampire. Um, Now the movie has a very very unique combination blend of creepy and fun, and that was one of the things that really left a withstanding impression on me. Right? It's yes, it's very creepy. I mean, there's a scene when Karen Black's character, she's chained up and she's kind of like in this little room, and at the bottom of the room that she's chained up in, there's like a hole to put food or whatever, I don't know. And she puts her hand through and like starts like clapping her nails on the thing, and it's a really creepy hand. And it's just it's a cool combination of creepy and fun, guys. The vampire design is fantastic, like I said. um it's just a really unique design, kind of old school Nosferatu vampire style, with the long hands and the kind of very pronounced fangs over like wrinkly kind of skin. Um, and it hit hard for me. Um, the other thing is there's like a character in this movie that kind of is has devil and angel like on his shoulder in a sense, and it's really interesting to me because he is a priest, and he kind of this is something I don't really see in other vampire flicks, but he's kind of grappling with the temptation of wanting to be bitten by a vampire and wanting to give in to the lust that a female vampire, in this case Karen Black, can bring to his life. And he's like grappling with that for much of the movie. And I thought that was a really kind of cool concept to have in there, because I haven't really seen that before from a vampire flick, where a character actually has the option of getting bitten and they're kind of grappling with what they should do or not. Um, Again, typical vampire movies don't really tackle that kind of a decision. Um, so I thought that was really interesting that he was like thinking about surrendering himself, but he just didn't know. Um, there's also like a scene after feeding. One of the vampires after feeding grows this like exoskeleton. It's kind of like in this like vegetative state because they ate, and it was just creepy. It's almost like a bug like growing like an exoskeleton kind of thing. Um, Really really cool. The Vampire Master Zatu, I believe is his name if I'm not mistaken. He totally gives Radu vibes from subspecies. So on that note, let me go back a little bit to 1991 because I'm not really sure why this movie doesn't get enough love, but listen to 1991 horror. Okay, because these are all the movies that came out in 1991. Pretty good year for horror. And I believe, if not mistaken, 1991 is the year Full Moon rebranded under the Full Moon Features banner, and so that's why you're seeing a lot of Full Moon titles this year. But anyways, you had Child's Play 3, you had Dolly Dearest, great movie. Freddy's Dead, Final Nightmare, Ghoulies 3, Omen 4, People Under the Stairs, Popcorn, Puppet Master 2 and 3, Subspecies, and Silence of the Lambs. Okay, so a lot of good stuff that year. I would say Full Moon was kind of really doing its thing, and you got a lot of practical effects type stuff and puppets and um, all that stuff. And I think that's why some of these years of horror really draw me in, because I like those kinds of effects. Um, but so I mean, it was right in the same vein as a lot of these movies, like Ghoulies and Popcorn and Puppet Master. It's a similar kind of vibe. So I'm not really sure exactly what went on with this movie or why it doesn't get enough love. Maybe it just needs a HD disc, and once that happens, this movie will get like praise and praise. But I'm probably is the reason why it just hasn't had a release. And 2003 was the DVD, so 22 years. I mean, that's a long time for something to stay dormant like that, and people just forget. So Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of 1991 snapshot, in picture. But there's also a scene in this where a little kid is like a familiar, which again, not all vampire movies tackle the idea of a familiar. And if you watch, What We Do in the Shadows or anything, a familiar is basically a washer for a human washer for vampires. In return, they will not, turn them, etc., and they will use them as kind of like a bodyguard. And the familiar watches at night and makes sure everything's okay in their surroundings, etc. And there's a scene when like a little kid who is the familiar for Zater and some of the other vampires, um, look away now if you don't want me to spoil anything, because this is not really a big spoiler, but I'm gonna say something about the movie. So spoiler alert, the little kid, the familiar is a little kid, and he's like 12-year-old, and he gets staked through the heart, and it's fucking awesome because he's not even a vampire, but he's like a kid, and it's a really cool death. Like I really enjoyed that one. He kind of like has this like one line before he dies, and it's fun, guys. So, anyways, this movie both glamorizes and humanizes being a vampire. Okay, there's a teen vamp who says, she can't smell good smells anymore, and she's grappling with the whole existence of being a vampire. And she says when she smokes a cigarette, she can't inhale. And like, it's really interesting, that dichotomy that they kind of put out there between vampires and humans, and what it means to be a vampire, and what you lose as a vampire. Whereas most times, in these movies, they talk about like they glamorize being a vampire. It's like, oh, come join us, you'll feel stronger and this. But this one kind of did something a little different, and I thought that was really, really fun. And I thought that was really unique take. So, guys, I really, really enjoyed Children of the Night. I hope this gets an upgraded release, some kind of an HD disc. And who knows? Vinegar Syndrome is doing a lot of 90s stuff. This feels right up their alley. So maybe we get it this year from VS. But Pray for Dawn, Children of the Night. Check this one out, guys. I can't stress enough how much I enjoyed it, especially watching it on VHS. And hit me up in the comments if you guys have seen this one, because I'm dying to talk about it. So I just watched it. I loved it. Had a great time with it. So thank you guys for hanging out. Vampire Hire from the Vampire movie from the 90s. Catch y'all later. Peace.